film opens at the Crystal Lake campgrounds in 1958. We see counselors singing with campers, we see the younger campers in their bunks. There is an atmosphere of peace and harmony. Two counselors sneak away to engage in promiscuous debauchery. However, the premarital lovemaking is interrupted by an unknown figure, but one recognized by the counselors. The figure quickly kills them before the opening credits roll to the stabbing strings of Harry Manfredini. After the opening credits, we open to present day, being 1979. We meet Annie, who was one of the newly hired counselors at the soon-to-be reopened Camp Crystal Lake. She goes into a local truck stop and asks if someone can give her a lift to the camp. The reaction to her request is one would expect had she been given a lift by Large Marge. One trucker reluctantly agrees to give her a ride. Before leaving, they're stopped by Ralph, the film's arbiter, warning them that they're doomed at the camp. They brush off his rantings and proceed towards the camp. While driving, the trucker tells Annie about the strange incidents that happened at the camp. A boy drowning, 2 counselors murdered, fires, and laughs them off before being dropped off. Meanwhile, at the camp, a group of teens are prepping the cabins under the supervision of Steve Christie. It's all fun and games. Steve leaves for a supply run before the weather gets bad. While Steve is gone, the counselors take it easy and make the most of the serene environment. Little do they know they are in the sights of a killer, or as I think, killers, but I'll dive into that hypothesis later. In gradual progression, the counselors are murdered by a mysterious figure, often obscured. We get throat slit, we get a stabbing in the neck, some basic kills that show the makeup expertise of Tom Savini. Eventually, it's down to Alice, who comes face to face with the person the film presents as the killer, Mrs. Voorhees. Mrs. Voorhees snaps at the thought of her son drowning while the counselors were too busy fornicating. The opening does a nice job of setting the tone of the film. The calm of the camp makes for a nice juxtaposition to the incidents of murder. You think there's security in the isolation of the forest, but truly one is only more vulnerable. Now, we need to discuss the possibility that there is more than one killer. Either that or Victor Miller and Sean Cunningham gave us a poorly laid out movie. When we see Anne get killed, the hands are very much masculine, and the glimpses of clothing don't match what we see Mrs. Voorhees wear when she arrives. Later on, when Ned sees someone go into a cabin at the camp, they're wearing different clothes from the figure who killed Annie, and different from Mrs. Voorhees. So we're shown the possibility that there are likely 3 killers, but I'm going to say there's at least 2. Now, this whole time we're led to believe that Steve Christie might be the killer. Anne is lured into a Jeep that is similar looking to his. The killer is masculine. But 15 minutes in the film, we see that Steve is not the killer since he's at a diner some 25 miles from the camp. Steve is greeted at the entrance to the camp by someone he recognizes, that being Mrs. Voorhees, and this is the only kill in the present time I would positively attribute to her. When we go back to camp, we see Brenda's body is thrown through a kitchen window. There is no way you can convince me Mrs. Voorhees threw her body through the kitchen window, ran to her Jeep, which was probably at least a good 200, 300 feet away, climbed in, drove near the cabin for Alice to see her, and come out of the Jeep not physically exhausted for running at her age. And that doesn't even account for the fact that the film expects us to accept Mrs. Voorhees as the killer, despite her not being introduced to the viewers until the last 20 minutes of the film. If you're going to do a murder mystery, you have to show us all the suspects at the start so the audience can try to figure out who might be the killer. All I can think of is Truman Capote as Lionel Twain from the criminally underrated comedy Murder by Death. Don't worry, you can expect a whole episode of underrated and overlooked comedies in the future, and Murder by Death will be prominently featured. But there is a monologue by Capote as Twain that perfectly describes the crime this film is guilty of. You've tortured us all with surprise endings that made no sense. You've introduced characters in the last 5 pages that were never in the book before. You've withheld clues and information that made it impossible for us to guess who did it. It's frustrating for this film to make so many continuity mistakes and fail so miserably at a murder mystery formula that has been perfected for decades. Yet this film is heralded as a classic. Don't get me wrong, it has technical aspects that are noteworthy. The effects in the film by Tom Savini are rough around the edges. By this time, he's had 2 noted George Romero films under his belt, the vampire classic Martin and the iconic Dawn of the Dead. When Kevin Bacon is stabbed through the neck, you can easily see the appliance coloring not matching Bacon's skin tone, but they help establish the standard of gore for the slasher genre. One kill appears to be lifted from the Mario Bava classic Bay of Blood, where the effects makeup were under the supervision of Carlo Rambaldi. Rambaldi's credits include Fulci's Lizard in a Woman's Skin, Ridley Scott's Alien, and Steven Spielberg's E.T. the Extraterrestrial. When Marcy gets the axe to her face, it is shot almost exactly like the billhook to the face of Bobby in Bay of Blood. Hashtag Bava did it better. While on the subject of Bay of Blood, the cinematography of Bill Abrams for Friday the 13th mirrors the camera eye of Bava. The establishing shots of the scenery for Camp Crystal Lake matches the eerie calm and remoteness of the Bayside Mansion real estate. Henry Manfredi's music is clearly riffing on Psycho, especially with the stabbing strings. For all the mud that was slung at Richard Band for Reanimator, a fair amount should be aimed at Friday the 13th. But it works for the film. Casting-wise, the film lead of Alice is played really well by Adrienne King. She actually goes against the tropes associated with the slasher genre. She smokes dope, it's hinted she's had sex with Steve, and she drinks. She should be another victim, yet she ends up being the hero of the film. So Scream can take its cliches and genre self-awareness.
Turn that sumbitch sideways and stick it straight up! You can do it!
Betsy Palmer as Mrs. Voorhees is a nice twist on the Norman Bates dynamic. Instead of the son adopting the persona of the mother, you have the mother adopting the persona of the son. Seeing Mrs. Voorhees childishly chant, "Kill her, Mommy! Kill her!" is actually pretty chilling, and Palmer does a great job of selling it. And the fight at the end between Alice and Mrs. Voorhees is probably one of the best in the horror genre. It doesn't feel choreographed to death. It feels real. They bite, scratch, they rub each other's faces into the sand. Granted, the climax is padded out and could use a trim of about 10-15 minutes, but overall I enjoyed their brawling. And Tom Savini was the one who suggested the Carrie-like ending of Jason popping out of the water at the end. So you can thank him or blame him for the films that followed. In the end, Friday the 13th has its moments and merits. If you're looking for a film that features modest kills, a great woman versus woman fight, and the right atmosphere, you could do worse. It's nice to see how this horror series started, but there are better films on the horizon.